Welcome back to another edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you, as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com. Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. We're ranking the 10 quarterbacks who have the best shot to challenge Patrick Mahomes' legacy. Kind of a complicated way of basically looking through and determining who can go out, win championships, MVP, set records. Who are the ones that can, the veterans that can take a step forward. Jalen Hurts, an example, already got a Super Bowl under his belt. How big does that loom? Which quarterbacks can break Patrick Mahomes' records, right? If he doesn't own those are going to be an issue. How important is that MVP award? Does he need to get it? And how many guys can keep him from getting it? And what young quarterbacks have the biggest upsides? We're discussing it right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here. Going through an exercise to basically figure out what quarterbacks can create the biggest issues for Patrick Mahomes when it comes to his legacy. Right now, I think we would all agree he's the top dog amongst quarterbacks, but which ones can change that? Jeff, when we were chatting before we got going here, you said, have an interesting exercise. What'd you learn from the exercise? We always like to start with that. What did you come away with that kind of impressed you, surprised you, that you, thought, wow, that's interesting?
Well, I was surprised that some of the usual suspects weren't as high as they used to be on my list, and that really I was more intrigued by just some of the circumstances surrounding some teams and some quarterbacks, and really just I think that there is, and I said this a few years ago when Mahomes showed up. He was such a unicorn when he first arrived, but now you're seeing a lot more guys who play the way he plays, who have similar skill sets, and so. It's kind of intriguing to think about how does a guy like Jaden Daniels fit into this equation now, or someone like a CJ Stroud, who's a little obviously not as mobile as Mahomes, but there's more young guys in this conversation than there were before. How does Justin Herbert factor into it now that Jim Harbaugh is his head coach? I mean, all these things. There were some guys that was just talent. Now there's coaching and roster building that affects how we look at them.
How about you, Sam? What'd you come away learning from this?
Well, I think the exercise itself inherently needs to be guys who play him frequently. So I think it needs to be heavy AFC, potentially division, but it's to me a mixture of the accolades, and it prompts you to think of the hypotheticals of what awaits in the future, not only based on what you have seen, but based on what you could see. But I think one of my biggest takeaways is, as much as we critique Patrick Mahomes, and rightfully so, like we are a Chiefs-centered podcast, he's the most prominent player on this team. Every single person on this list has so many more gaps in their resume than what Patrick Mahomes has. He's the guy who has this combination of team success and individual success that, to be frank, nobody on my list can match.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We're talking about a legacy that we all agreed not long ago that he's number 2, and that's where we think he's probably going to be because it's so hard to get to Tom Brady. So, but, if he's going to grow that, he's got to go through somebody. right? So let's get to it. Who is that list of the somebodies? And I'm with you guys. I thought it was interesting. Like, okay, do I take this as who can beat him a couple of times, who can knock him out of the playoffs, who can beat him in a Super Bowl? Is it who do I think has a chance to be the best record setter if he ends up going where now it gets harder with his bloating contract and he's aging out, that it's about piling on the numbers? I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it. So I'm intrigued to hear where you guys, and we have not shared our list, right? And we're going to go 1 through 10. And we do not know what each other is going to say. So I think that's an important part of the equation. So know that as we go through this, we have not shared our lists, so we don't know what the other persons are going to say. So Jeff, you want to lead us off here and get us going with your number one on your list?
And number one's the guy who just beat him in the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts.
Interesting.
I didn't know I would go with him that high, but he's played him twice in the Super Bowl. He's beaten him once. He outplayed him in the first one, had a chance to win it, and he's playing on a franchise with a franchise that clearly understands what he is and what needs to be around him. Like the Eagles, I don't think Howie Roseman, their general manager, is going to make the mistake of thinking I've got a Patrick Mahomes caliber quarterback here. He's always going to be trying to put as much talent around him as he can. And this current iteration of this team, for at least the next couple of years, has a chance to go back and win another championship. And so if he comes out of this in the first 6 years of his career with 2 championships, maybe a third, then you're in the conversation with Mahomes now. All of a sudden, and Mahomes doesn't get anything during that time, you're in that conversation. And so I think he's got the best team. I think he's proven can handle the moment, and he's got a shot to win championships. So there's no one else on my list who I felt is comfortable saying could win a champion. Actually, there's one other guy who's a little bit lower, but he's the only guy right now who, to me, feels like the biggest threat to keep Mahomes from winning the championship.
When you say in that conversation, expand on that. What conversation?
As far as the winning part of it, he won't put up statistically. He won't put up the numbers as Mahomes does. But if you've got 3 championships in a 6-year period, then you're in a whole different spectrum. That's why Mahomes. If Mahomes only had 1 championship and a whole bunch of numbers, we wouldn't talk about him the same way.
Yeah.
So if you get into that conversation and you're 3 out of 4, or 2 out of 3, or 2 for 4.
Are you expecting that? Are you expecting to be that?
I think the Eagles will win another championship in the next 2-3 years with this current bunch. Yeah.
Interesting. Sam, top of your list?
I've got Josh Allen. I thought we'd all have Josh Allen number one. I thought I had Jalen Hurts high on this list, by the way. I thought I'd be the one fighting for Jalen Hurts, but Josh Allen is obviously really good. I think Brandon Beane does a good job. I think that's just like a good program in Buffalo. He can pass, he can run. I think the most underrated part of Josh Allen is he has the pocket really figured out. His pressure to sack ratio is led the league for 2 straight years. He's also, I recognize the difference between the regular season and playoffs. Like, I'll underscore that first, but he's beaten Mahomes 4 straight years. In 4 straight seasons, he has beaten Patrick Mahomes. He's the only quarterback that can say that. And he obviously has to get over that hump in the playoffs. It's why if we were tiering the quarterbacks, he would be below Patrick Mahomes. But I think he's the guy that's shown the most capability individually of beating him. But Buffalo just has a tough team too. Like, they've drafted well the last handful. Like, they're in the conversation with the Chiefs every year as far as the race for the 1 seed. Like, the Chiefs were barely favored on their own home field against them last year. I just think Josh Allen has the team that's best equipped to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm on Josh Allen as well. I didn't know, I wasn't as confident that you guys would be on him the way you were, Sam, but I'm on him because he has beaten Mahomes. And I think it's more coincidence than it is, the playoff, like the playoffs are some sound barrier that he can't get through. Like, I just think it just happens to be that, that's just how it's worked out. The Chiefs have just happened to have the better day, the better game plan on that day. But Buffalo's proven that they are up to the task of beating the Chiefs. What they haven't proven is that they can avoid the pitfalls along the way. They haven't been able to get the home field enough. Now, they did it 2 years ago. And so last year they couldn't bounce back. I felt like they had that confidence that we don't need to be at home, and they were going to, cruise towards it. But They weren't able to get it done. I think Josh Allen's a big physical guy. I do worry about the beating he takes. That's one of the reasons why Jalen Hurts isn't as high for me. I think the tush push takes its toll on the guy, and I don't think there's going to be a longevity thing there. I think his legs are an important part of the equation, and that all is there with Josh Allen as well. But kind of to what Sam said before we got going, he's got a lot of opportunities to beat Patrick Mahomes head-to-head, and he's already done it. And if he can beat him in the playoffs and then go win a championship, I think the murmurs will be the loudest around him, because then once he gets the championship, then you look back and go, and look at how many times he's beaten him in the regular season.
Yeah.
Right now, that's almost a negative because he can't get by him in the playoffs. But once he does get by in the playoffs, which I think will happen at some point just because he's that good, and I agree with Sam on how good the Bills program is, I think then those will become kind of like Andy Reid's close calls in Philly were used against him until he started winning. It's like, yeah, and look what he did without Mahomes. I think it'll be the same thing with Josh Allen. So I've got Josh Allen.
There's one other aspect of that to me, which is Josh Allen plays in potentially the easiest division in football over like the next 3-4 years. When you look at it, like the Dolphins aren't getting any better. A lot of their big swing of contracts are going to end up hurting them with like Tyreek Hill. The Patriots, I think, possibly have the quarterback figured out, but nothing else figured out. The Jets have virtually nothing figured out. The Chiefs division's getting stronger. And so when you talk about the Bills potentially getting them at home, which, as you mentioned, they did once, a missed field goal at the end of the game prevented that game from going into overtime. The Bills are going to have an easier path to get to a number 1 seed and potentially host the Chiefs in these games as well.
Yeah. All right. Who you got at number 2, Jeff?
Josh Allen.
Okay. There we go.
All the reasons you just said. But, I mean, the thing that I push back on both you guys is you're talking about if this happens or when this happens in the future. It's like that's why Jalen Hurts was number 1 for me, because he's already done it.
Yeah,
he's already gotten the Super Bowl win over Mahomes. He's already led his team to 2, and I'm a big Josh Allen fan as well. But for all the great things about him, like they're 0-4 in the playoffs against him. Like they haven't gotten past him, and there's nothing that guarantees that will happen ever. I think it could, but I'm not going to bet on it right now. And to me, to go back to Hurts for a second, like he feels a lot like Tom Brady at the start of his career, where he just had a great mix around him. And Josh Allen, when he's gotten in the playoffs, his defense has let him down every year. And for a team that's got a defensive-minded head coach, that's mystifying to me. And they just can't find that supporting cast that allows him to get over that hump. And so that's the only thing keeping him from being number 1 on my list, is that he just hadn't done it. And to me, that's a big thing.
Sam, number 2?
I've got Lamar Jackson, number 2. First of all, he's already this goes a little bit different from the team. It's the individual part of it. He's already got 2 MVPs. I think he should have won a 3rd last year. I thought he should have won over Josh Allen. I mentioned before, what separates Patrick Mahomes from literally everyone else on this list is its individual plus team accolades for Patrick Mahomes. Lamar, if he gets 3 MVPs and he's got more than Patrick Mahomes during the time that Patrick Mahomes is playing, I do think that alters the legacy, and not significantly, but I think we're all trying to find ways that could marginally alter the legacy, which is the question that we have. And Lamar Jackson's played a lot of really good regular season football. I think he's going to have some numbers that at least, the combination of his legs and passing that Mahomes won't be able to match. So I've got him and the Ravens are a good team. Like the Ravens are capable of beating the Chiefs at some point in the playoffs. Like they also run a good program there. So I've got Lamar too.
All right. I too have Lamar Jackson, and
you guys are lockstep over here. Huh?
So far. I struggled with this one because the one thing that I don't like is, the running quarterback aspect of things. Like I think he, runs a lot of risk to get hurt. And so I had him lower initially. And then I'm like, I came back to what you said, the organization, the Baltimore Ravens organization knows what they're doing. Right. And so I'm of the opinion that they're going to, continue to surround him with a good team. I don't know that about Joe Burrow of the Bengals. I'm not as sold on Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. I think there's a big penalty that they're going to have to pay for what they're doing cap-wise. And so I don't think they have as many years. Baltimore has the riddle of being good every year. And I think at some point, Lamar Jackson's going to be Patrick Mahomes, right? It just seems inevitable. And if he doesn't, I'll be that much more impressed with Patrick Mahomes. But I do have Lamar Jackson at number 2 on mine. Okay. Jeff, number 3.
Lamar Jackson.
We're not that far off on any of this.
No, we're not. Jalen Hurts is like, you guys are going to come around Jalen Hurts sooner or later.
Yeah.
And Lamar Jackson for again, the same reason with Josh Allen. The MVPs matter. Josh Allen having an MVP, I think he probably would be behind Lamar Jackson, but getting one, I think, and I think he's just a better quarterback, so that puts him above Lamar in my book. But Lamar's 3 because he's got the 2 MVPs. And we'd be talking about him differently if they had won last year and won a championship when they had home field advantage and were the top seed. If he had 2 MVPs and 1 championship, and Mahomes had 2 MVPs and 2 championships, it's a little different conversation about Patrick. But there's 0 championships for Lamar Jackson right now, and I do agree, like with Josh Allen, there's a potential to get one. But that's also why, again, Jalen Hurts is number 1, because these 2 guys are going to cancel each other out. And they're going to lose to Mahomes. There's not enough opportunities for them to get into that big game and win the championship. But I love what Lamar's done. And you can argue that the way he's trended, that the things that Patrick did at the start of his career that were so mind-blowing and so impressive, like he's doing those things now. And he might surpass him in MVPs. He might end up with more MVPs than Mahomes does in the final counting.
Okay. Where do you go for number 3, Sam?
I've got Jalen Hurts 3rd. And to add on to what Jeff
Finally.
said, even though I've got him number 3rd, I'll present a better argument for him on this list. The Eagles have a chance. Like this Chiefs dynasty is not going to be replicated. We literally had never seen a team get to a Super Bowl after winning back-to-back and then the Super Bowl the 3rd year. They've been to 5 and 6. Like that's not going to happen again. But the Eagles at least have the opportunity. The only team on this list has the opportunity to create like a miniature dynasty packaged within this Mahomes era. When you look at like the Tom Brady years, nobody packaged that sort of success together consecutively. Like the Giants won 2 out of 5 Super Bowls. They didn't win a playoff game in those other 3 years. They only made the playoffs 1 of those other 3 years that was sandwiched between those, or 4 years, I guess it would have been. And the Eagles have the opportunity to win 2 out of – if the Eagles go to a Super Bowl, they would have gone to 3 out of 4 Super Bowls, for example. And let's say hypothetically, because this is all hypothetical, if Jalen Hurts plays Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl again, he has the opportunity to outplay him in potentially 3 Super Bowls, to potentially beat him twice. Like he has the best opportunity to – answer this question emphatically. I just don't have the confidence that he will be the guy who answers this question.
Okay. Number 3 on my list is Joe Burrow. And I had him high, then I had him low, and then I brought him back up. I don't know that, first of all, he's got 2 weapons that I think he's going to continue to put up really big numbers. I think that they will be better, even if their defense still has a long way to go. I think they may lose Trey Hendrickson, but and I think that's a problem. And I think the Bengals organization is crappy. And so they'll probably do some things that are wrong. But he, too, has proven he can beat Patrick Mahomes. He has the swagger. He has no fear. And I think he might end up on another team, right? Like and if he goes to another team, then I think he'll be in great shape. I still think Joe Burrow, the quarterback, I know there's, a lot of Chiefs fans will quote all the different things that he hasn't done. But I'm a big Joe Burrow fan. He puts himself in harm's way a little too much. He takes too many sacks, but I think he's got the best chance to beat Patrick Mahomes on any given day. And he's got the weapons right now. So I'll go Joe Burrow at number 3. I like the swagger. I like that he's got his weapons. And so he could do some damage right now. And I think that can create, some drama for Patrick Mahomes moving forward. No drama when it comes to your parking lots. Avoid accidents. Go with Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's best. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, we're at number 4, Jeff. Who's number 4 for you?
Jaden Daniels, Washington Commanders. And this one surprised me because I didn't want to go this high with him, but then I thought about the year he had. I thought about where that team was before he showed up. And it feels a lot like Patrick Mahomes coming to Kansas City. And my guess is this is a quarterback who's going to win an MVP or 2 in the next 5 or 6 years. He took his team to the NFC Championship game in his first season. He's going to have a chance. Now, he's in the same division as the Eagles, but he's going to have a chance to get back and beyond that. And they've got a ton of money to spend. He's on a rookie deal. They've got a smart GM. They've got a good head coach and a bright offensive coordinator working with him. It would not surprise me if they went on a run here and rattled off a couple Super Bowl appearances. He got an MVP and a Super Bowl within that 5-year window of being under his rookie deal. And I'm big on Jaden Daniels right now. I mean, to me, like the excitement around him, it wasn't exactly at the same level as Mahomes, but Mahomes didn't play as a rookie, and this guy did. And it's pretty special to take a team that was that bad and an organization that dysfunctional and turn it around in 1 year.
Yeah.
How many Super Bowls you have the NFC getting?
All
Eagles and Commanders. We have for anybody.
I would argue that as great as the quarterbacks are in the AFC, the GMs and the roster building on the NFC side is stronger. I would argue that all day long.
I'm
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We got some teams that are kind of on the come. We'll see what happens with some of the young quarterbacks in the AFC. But, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Who's number 4 for you, Sam?
I've got Joe Burrow, but it's a different reason than you've got him for Soren. I don't like the way the Bengals are building the roster at all. But because of that, like I think Joe Burrow is going to be putting up the best numbers for the next 3 years. He put up the best numbers last year. Like he led the league in yards and touchdowns. I think you could see him like 3 out of 4 years leading the league in yards and touchdowns. That defense is so bad that they're going to have to be throwing all the time. And he's got 2 terrific wide receivers. Like you can't find a better 1-2 combination than Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So I think that those 2, factors, your defense stinks. You've got great wide receivers. You're going to be passing all the time. I just think his numbers are over these next, let's include 24 in this, from 24 to let's say 27. I think his numbers are really going to clear what Patrick Mahomes does over those 4 years.
I think that's a great point. And it's like the statistics guy. He could be the Dan Marino guy that's piling the numbers along the way, even if he doesn't have the wins. Number 4 on my list is Jalen Hurts, and it's for what Jeff said. He's got already a foothold on moving up the list. He's got the championship. He was barreling towards an MVP. I do think they're going to be pretty good for another year or 2. I think there's going to be a regression, but that Eagles team is pretty tough. And if he beats Patrick Mahomes again, which it's tough to have the advantage over him. All the other guys are already taking losses, but he's got a chance to have a winning record with just 1 win against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I think that goes a long way. But I just the injury factor I think is going to be real. He's been banged up already in his career, and I do think the cap is going to get to him. But I can't be all in yet on a Washington roster construction yet until I see what they do when they start having to, deal with who they walk away from. Right now, everybody's cheap and they're adding all the time. We're just now, when they're spending a bunch of money in free agency, going to find out. So I thought about Jaden Daniels here. I really was the other guy. Would I go Jaden Daniels here at number 4? But I go with Jalen Hurts at number 4. Jeff, number 5.
It's where Joe Burrow clocks in for me. And we did this list a couple of years ago, and he's number 1. Easily number 1. But the Bengals have fallen off. Haven't been in the playoffs the last couple of years. They've got a lot of money in those three players, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Burrow. I am concerned about whether they can build the kind of defense that the Eagles built, which is, I think the Eagles have 9 players on first-year contracts on their defense. That's going to be the route the Bengals have to take to reclamate that side of the football. But like as Sam said, to me, he's phenomenal, and he's the scariest quarterback for the Chiefs to face year in and year out. They've never had an easy time with him, and he's won more than he's lost, and he does have all those weapons. But again, they're in a weird place for me, and the way they lost some games last year. I just think that the pool has got a lot more players in it now, and as great as he is, that it's going to be a lot tougher for them to be in that conversation. So I love Joe, but yeah, he's not the top of the heap anymore in this conversation.
Okay. Sam?
This was the spot where the list really dropped off for me, because I think everyone left on my list I could really nitpick at. Like, I didn't want to rank anybody 5th on my list, but I've got Justin Herbert 5th. And the reason being is he has the advantage of he is most capable of making the playoff route really hard for Patrick Mahomes. He's the guy that is most capable of making them not win a division and have to go win 3 road games, to just advance to a Super Bowl. But, having said that, they're just Justin Herbert seems to be the most polarizing conversation quarterback in the league. Either you think he's this elite player, or you think he's nothing. And like, I fall more towards the elite, but like, there's got to be some in between here, because it is time for Justin Herbert to prove he can do it in the playoffs. Like, he's had enough time now to collect some sort of playoff run at some point, which he hasn't done. But like I said, he falls here for me because the Chargers are the most capable team, I think, of potentially upending, the Chiefs' decade-long reign of the AFC West. And if you do that, that really makes life hard in the playoffs for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't disagree with your thought process. I do think he's very polarizing. I think that's accurate, but he's had a lot of opportunities to be the guy and had to come away with it. We're going to find out how much coaching is, but if he wins now, because of the way his career started, they're going to give credit to Jim Harbaugh, right? Yeah. So how much credit will he get? So I clock in with Jaden Daniels here. And I do love the kid's talent. I think he can win some stuff. I am terrified of injuries. He takes too many hits. He's got to learn to get down. He's got to learn to protect himself. He took too many hits at LSU. I do like that he's off to a great start and already has confidence. So that he's got 4, 5, maybe 6, depending upon how they structure contracts. Pretty affordable years still for Washington. Put good talent around him, and he's already proven that he can play at a high level. There's not much more of a learning curve. They're improving the club. I like what they're doing. I think if anybody, I toyed around with putting him all the way at number 2.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I honestly, I feel kind of like I'm a bit of a coward, because I'm like, the injuries is what I ultimately settled him back down here. But I also thought, like, well, everyone's going, are you kidding me? Jaden Daniels, he hadn't won anything. I know, but it's about who can do it. And I think if there's anybody that I'm going to regret, it'll be him, not putting him higher. Because I do love what he brings to the table. If he can stay healthy, Joe Montana wasn't healthy all the time, but he was healthy enough to be one of the greats of all time. That's what I think you want out of Jaden Daniels. Stop putting yourself in harm's way, run and then slide. A lot of Lamar Jackson tape would be nice, because Lamar Jackson does a really nice job of getting a lot with his legs and then checking out when there's nothing else to get. Jaden Daniels plays tough guy too much. And that's why I ultimately slide him down. I think he's more likely to go RG3 than he is the long career, Joe Montana. And I think both of them are kind of similar body types to what he brings to the table. Jeff, all right, number 6.
Old guy time. OG, Matthew Stafford. And
really?
A little risky here, but, I'm big on the NFC. He's 37 years old, right? But
the Rams are also going to win 2 Super Bowls in the next 5 years.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. If they win a couple championships, I think he's going to play until he's 40. And I think they've got enough young guys around him for him to make that run. He's taking pretty good care of himself. I know he's been more banged up lately, but it was nothing debilitating. But he played good football this past year. And Devontae Adams being there, he's a little older, but they can find other receivers as he gets to the end of his career. But I love that offense right now with Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams and Adams. And then that defense, they've stocked up on a lot of young talent. And they're very much right there with the Eagles and the Commanders and the Lions and the Vikings as being real championship contenders in the NFC. So if Matthew Stafford got 1 or 2 more championships, I mean, he's got – people talk about Mahomes and Josh Allen. His arm talent is right there with them. And he turned his career around after all these years in Detroit of being down. If he goes out with a couple more championships and gets 3 with his numbers, I mean, he's probably first ballot Hall of Famer.
If you take all of the NFC, then you're piling the numbers, right? It's a numbers game. You're going to hit with one of them and be like, see, I told you. I had him right there.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. The odds of all these guys on the AFC side getting there, they got to get over each other.
That's right. It's a valid point.
But you also do play Patrick Mahomes more often. Like, you're more likely to beat Patrick Mahomes because you're going to get more opportunities if you're in the AFC.
Yeah, but then if you lose, then your record sucks, right?
Yeah.
So Jalen Hurts is 2-1 against him.
Yeah. There's validity on
Lamar's what, 1-5?
Yeah. And that's probably the biggest knock against him, right? All right, so Sam, where do you go at 6?
Yeah, I'll keep this brief because I've got Jaden Daniels 6. Obviously, it's a blank canvas for him. Second in explosive runs to Lamar Jackson last year, second to Jalen Hurts and runs for first down. The guy can beat you in multiple ways, and terrific on 3rd and 4th downs. By the way, there might not be a quarterback you'd rather have the ball in his hands on 3rd and 4th downs because they just run it with him, and teams know they're going to run it with him on 4th and 3. They don't care. They find a way. He still finds a way to get a first down anyway.
Yeah. He's a talent. There's no doubt about it. Number 6 on me, I'll be brief as well. Justin Herbert, because just the talent's there. And I'm assuming married up with Jim Harbaugh, he's going to have a chance to beat Patrick Mahomes. If the Chiefs trip up a little bit, they should be able to win a division. They play tough guy football. Jim Harbaugh's proven he can win in the postseason, but they got a ways to go. I mean, that first playoff game, I don't think it takes like 3 years to figure out what Jim Harbaugh wants from you. And I think the thing that could be shocking is it like one of those, he moves Herbert and turns to a different quarterback, right? People were stunned. Alex Smith was playing his best football for him, and he went, nope, that's not my guy. My guy's over here. He inherited this guy. Jim Harbaugh marches to his own drum. So Jim Harbaugh could blow up Justin Herbert's ability just by shipping him off. And then he's got a bad record against Mahomes, and, his coach just said, you're not the guy. So who knows what will happen there. But there's a lot of talent to like.
I mean, I actually considered, instead of Justin Herbert, just putting Jim Harbaugh on this list because he is a quarterback.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, we've still got 7, 8, 9, and 10 on who can stop Patrick Mahomes. We'll do that after you hear from our friends at Best Me Wellness.
Best Me Wellness for all your cannabis needs. With fast, easy, and discreet delivery, you can enjoy the same deals you enjoy in-store, but delivered to your home or office. Even same day. Restrictions may apply. Any questions? Let Besame's top-rated customer service team assist you. And this Chief season, don't miss a minute of the game with no delivery fees on game days. And when the home team wins, so do you. Use promo code 3PEAT and receive some extra free goodies with your next Besame order. Don't forget, you can still use promo code podcast25 to save 25% on your entire order for online delivery or at any of their 5 area Besame locations.
Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, we pick up at number 7, Jeff. And this is where we got a chance. Are we all going to spike in different directions here? I think this is where it gets a little bit interesting here. Number 7, where do you go, Jeff?
We've already spiked in different directions starting at number one.
They've all kind of come around, don't we? I'm trying to look.
They're not all going to come around after he put Stafford 6.
Yeah, Stafford is the difference right now. That's the big one that jumps out.
Yeah, I'm staying on the NFC side. I'm going with Jared Goff as well. And Jared Goff might have won a championship this year if they could have kept his defense healthy and then have 20 guys wind up on IR. And as good as the Eagles were, I thought the Lions were the better team for most of the year until they started cratering. Jared Goff's already played in one Super Bowl. He's beaten Mahomes. Actually, I think they only met one time, right? That was back when the 54-51 game.
Yep.
And he's still in a great situation in Detroit. I mean, they got a lot of young players, really well coached. I do wonder how much, if Ben Johnson was going to still be there, I'd probably have him higher on this list. But without him there, I'm not certain how that offense is going to, how high the ceiling is for it. But I can't argue what Dan Campbell's done with that team. And again, I think Jared Goff's in a great position with that team to get the Super Bowl a couple times and potentially win at least one. And so I like his odds more than some of the other guys on the bottom of my list to do that.
Okay. For you, Sam, who's number 7?
Yeah, I think I would have Jared Goff like maybe 5th if Ben Johnson hadn't left. I've got CJ Stroud 7th. I've got questions about CJ Stroud, to be clear. Like I warned that when we did our quarterback tiers in like maybe July, said I'm interested to see what CJ Stroud does when teams take away the deep ball. He didn't do well when teams took away the deep ball. The Texans didn't either. They took away the deep ball from themselves with a terrible offensive line. And I really don't like what the Texans have done to address their offensive line. I mean, their offensive line was terrible and they still trade guys out. And like, I've got questions about what they can do. Like, this is a big year for CJ Stroud to adjust back to what teams did to him. But I just think he's a really talented quarterback. He's a good leader, a tough guy. And I still think he will be good, regardless of what the Texans put around him. I still think he'll make them good enough to where it's a team that the Chiefs are going to have to reckon with. At some point, the coaching and that the cycle is going to click for them to have the right guys at the right time. That I think they'll be a really tough team.
All right, I'm going to go here with Jordan Love at number 7.
Jordan Love.
Yep.
Other guys I mentioned, Jordan Love.
Jordan Love. Well, I think there's upside. I think there's high end, and I like the team. I like how the Packers can constantly put a winning product out on the field. So a lot of it is I think he's quarterbacking a team that I think has a lot of the right answers, and so and he's in the NFC, and I think he can get there. I'm not as high on Jared Goff. Jared Goff's already 30, so I don't know how much more there's no more upside to Jared Goff. And I think the Lions may, if it's not this year, when's it going to be? And they do change out the offensive coordinator, and guys are going to start getting expensive. Jared Goff is expensive, and they're going to start feeling the full weight of that contract. Jordan Love, to me, you still got an opportunity there to put a lot of talent around him. And I like how the Packers do business. So I've got Jordan Love at number 7.
I've just not to cut through, Jeff. I've got Love at 8. Though, so I agree with I agree with what you said, and a major part for me is the Packers itself. Like the organization itself does not take these peaks and valleys. Like they are consistently good. I know last year of Aaron Rodgers, 2 years ago, they don't make the playoffs, but that's not a team that goes through playoff droughts. And so I think they're going to be good enough for long enough to where they could break through at some point.
Yeah. Okay. So we're on the same wavelength on that. Then where do you go, Jeff, at number 8?
Herbert. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd like to put in higher, and maybe I'm more caught up in just how much these guys have to compete with Mahomes and with each other. And so I do agree with you guys that Jim Harbaugh is a big factor in what he's going to become. I'm curious as to what that offense will look like in a couple of years. This last year, they had to play a lot more. Harbaugh's going to run it, but I think he'll be able to open it up more. He's able to get more weapons in there. I like how they built it around him, the good offensive line. The defense is going to be strong, but it really, he just hasn't, kind of like Trevor Lawrence. There's something that he just hasn't gotten to as a quarterback that I'm still waiting to see, and it's It's that I'm going to just go out there and kill you if I have to do it myself mentality that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Mahomes and Joe Burrow have. There's something missing with Herbert, and I can't put my finger on it, but maybe that's just it. He's just not as much of an ass kicker as those guys are.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have that fire, but he'll stand in against the rush. That's the one thing I questioned when he came into the league, and he'll do it. Trevor Lawrence will stand in against the rush, but he stands in too long. Trevor Lawrence doesn't see the windows the way Justin Herbert does. He sees the windows better. I'll be interested to see if they put some more weaponry around him, what he does. I think that's interesting. All right. So Herbert goes at 8. You had Jordan Love at 8, Sam. At 8, I go Bo Nix.
Wow.
Of the
wow. That is a name I did not expect to be on any of our lists.
I'll tell you why.
He's on my list, but not.
Is he really?
Not at 8.
Wow.
Well, not at 8. We're at 8, 9, 10.
We only got 2 spots left.
He's not at 32, right?
I can tell you he's not on my list.
This is why I said we would start spiking in different directions.
Because you knew you had Bo Nix on the list, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know. I thought Jordan Love, Bo Nix, I thought they were guys that, could be different. Sometimes I do this and I'm like, okay, we're all in the same mindset. But Bo Nix had a tremendous rookie season. Now that, if there was no CJ Stroud, he would have been the offensive rookie of the year. I mean, if there were no Jaden Daniels, he'd have been the offensive rookie of the year. I mean, he had a great rookie season. He's got an offensive-minded coach. The Broncos have got a lot of cap room over the next couple of years. So I think they can put a lot of talent around him. So I think, after Justin Herbert, in fact, I may end up being like, I'm an idiot. Why didn't I have this guy way over Justin Herbert? Because I think he does have that fire. I think he does have that competitive streak. He doesn't have as much talent, but I do like, kind of all of a sudden the Broncos look like they had a plan. If Sean Payton, if he didn't screw it up with his big mouth, along the way, they should be pretty damn good. There should be no excuse for it. And, he's off to a hell of a start. Again, it's get in the way. It's like, not that he will be better than Patrick Mahomes, but I think there could be a nice little window here on his rookie contract where he does very well. And the Broncos do very well. So I've got Bo Nix at number 8. All right, that takes us to number 9. I assume neither. Do you have Bo Nix 9, Jeff?
No.
Okay. Right, then we can figure out your 10.
Yeah.
Who do you got 9?
CJ Stroud. Okay. And if we did this a year ago, he'd been a lot higher on this list. But Sam raised some valid points about how they're putting that team together around him. The offensive line is still very much a disaster. Looks worse than the Chiefs' offensive line, at certain areas now. But I wish I could have seen him with a healthy Stephon Diggs, with Tank Dell, not getting hurt, and with a better offensive line. I think there were so many things around him that went south that you didn't really see. Obviously, you didn't see the growth that you were expecting from a guy in his second year. But, Sam brought this up as well, too. Like, he looked bad against the blitz. There were some things that came out that we didn't see in the first year, not just the long ball, but just his processing and his feel for the game. And so he really dropped, to me, a lot in that one season. And so can they fix those things? Certainly. Can they figure out how to put better people around them? They've got new receivers coming in, but he's definitely got a much higher mountain to climb now than I thought he would have at this time last year.
All right, I'll go here because I have CJ Stroud at number 9 as well. And if we'd have done this last year, he'd have been 3, 2, 4.
Easily.
But it was a regression year, and the Texans don't seem to know what they're doing. And so I should have more of a Bengals tax on Joe Burrow, but I'm putting a heavy Texans tax, like where it seemed like they had it all going last year, like Texan-esque maneuvers seem to be rearing their head. And I question where that team is going to go. And I do think, I always, I go back to the Tank Dell that, how emotional he was. Like, I don't know. There's just something that seems a little awkward now about him. And maybe it's just because he didn't have the great second year. But I love his talent. He may bounce back next year, and we do this again next year, and I've got him at 3. Right? We go, okay, last year was kind of the anomaly. But their division sucked. It was there for them to pile up wins and be higher. I think a lot of people thought if anybody was going to get that number 1 seed away from the Chiefs this year, Yeah, the Bills and the Ravens are always contenders, but boy, the Texans were a hot idea because their division seemed easy. You remember early on, the Dolphins looked like hell on wheels. The Jets looked like they were going to have it together. So the Bills were supposed to have a tough schedule. The Steelers are always tough. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, they had what was, and we know the AFC West is getting better. So they were the one bunch that you were supposed to have an easy path, and they, kind of slopped around, back-assed into the playoffs and didn't do a whole lot. I know they got excited about, the one game, but yeah, so it's a little disappointing. So I've got CJ Stroud at number 9, and maybe he'll blow that up in my face. Who's number 9 for you, Sam?
I've got Jared Goff 9. I mean, the Lions were the best team in football last year. Like I said, he would have been higher on my list had they not lost both coordinators. So I've got questions about how their offense and defense, particularly the offense, though, is going to respond to that. But they were still the best team in football last year. If the Chiefs make the Super Bowl this year, there is a decent chance that Jared Goff will be the quarterback standing in the way of them winning.
Okay. Let's go with number 10. This should be interesting, Jeff. You've got Bo Nix, right?
I'm with Bo Nix. Bo Nix for the same reasons you said. He was, I think, even with the season he had, he was still underrated. And I love how Sean Payton coached him. I love how he used his legs. He does have, you're right, he does have more of that killer mentality than Justin Herbert has. And with what they have on defense and what if Sean Payton can find the running back he wants, who can be the Alvin Kamara type player, and they brought in Evan Ingram, another receiver comes in, like they're going to run pretty good offense system. He's going to win a lot of games. And so I'd almost, thinking about it now, I almost put him ahead of Justin Herbert, but Herbert's been around longer, is more talented, so I feel more comfortable with that.
Okay. I feel validated now. Number 10 for you, Sam. Where are you going?
Well, it's never good when I have to have a wind-up beforehand, but I'm going to stress it's not my quarterback rankings. I'm not sure I put this guy even in my top half of quarterbacks in the league. So the category is guys with
don't say Dak Prescott. Don't say Dak Prescott.
It might be worse. I've got Caleb Williams 10th.
Oh Lord!
Because I think that
you just can't quit him.
Yeah,
this is your psycho girlfriend.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
But we had such a great dinner. I mean, he really listens to me. Then I think
his sack avoidance is really alarming. But Ben Johnson's entire
does he know what it is?
I think the lesson that, first of all, in Caleb Williams that we should all learn, that I think the three of us already knew, but there's always this assumption that this guy, or this guy is going to tear up the NFL from day one. And they don't. There is a learning curve. And for Caleb Williams, the arm talent is there. The learning curve is dealing with pressure. Well, Ben Johnson's offense is designed to get rid of the ball quickly. And it's going to be interesting to see if Caleb Williams is willing to fit into that box. But if he plays on schedule with their offense, he's got more arm talent than Jared Goff does, than the number one offense in the league did last year. So he's on here because I think he has a really high ceiling with an offensive coordinator who also has proven that he's capable of reaching a higher ceiling with lesser talent. So I'm not ranking him as the 10th best quarterback. I just think the potential is there with that offensive quarterback on a rookie deal with a lot of arm talent to actually get something done.
Okay. I mean, you gave it good reasons. I think sack avoidance is a little bit of something you're born with. I think the clock in your head, I don't know how much you can train that.
There's definitely some evidence to support. I mean, Joe Burrow has never improved with the sack avoidance. It's still an issue for him.
Yeah. All right. So I'll shake up the world again, and I'll go Drake May. I think.
Wow. Yeah. You say Sanders.
Would you take?
Maybe I should.
Would you take Drake May over Caleb Williams if you were drafting tomorrow?
I will take Mike Vrabel, and I do think that there's a potential for this to work. I should have spent more time on Caleb Williams. I mean, you made it a good case for him. I like Drake May coming out of North Carolina, and I like his legs. I think he runs for first. I think he's going to run for first downs. I think there's a little Josh Allen in him. He's not going to run over people, but he'll get out of there and go make some plays with his legs. I think he's big enough, strong enough, sturdy enough to that injuries will be a lesser problem for him. And I'm banking a lot on Mike Vrabel. I really like Mike Vrabel as a head coach. They're going to have to get the right offensive guys around him. I don't know that Josh McDaniel's the guy, right? But I wanted to have one of the young quarterbacks. I actually did. I'm like, is there any of the rookies? I'm like, no, I'm not going with Cam Ward. I'm not going with Shedeur Sanders. I kicked that around a little bit. Like, would that be a guy to go with? But I do like Drake May. So Jared Goff I thought about, but he is 30 now. And for all the reasons I kind of stated before about the Lions, I don't love that. Who else did I knock around for this?
So no Matthew Stafford for either one of you guys, huh?
No.
Just hating
No.
on the old guys.
Stafford, like in my quarterback tiers, he will show up in this list.
Yeah.
Like that is the
Yes.
difference in this list. I am
But
surprised.
he's kicking around retirement. How many more years do you think he's going to play?
Oh, he'll stick around. Now they paid him some money and gave him a new toy.
I am surprised, Soren, on no Jared Goff, just because this is the quarterback who led the best offense in the league. And I think Ben Johnson's a big deal. It's why Caleb Williams shows up on my list. They didn't lose like anything offensively. When you look at their roster, like the piece, the whole team's coming back. And so to not have the number one offensive quarterback last year, even in the top 10, I think is pretty surprising.
It may be a gross overreaction, but this is what I've always said about why I want an offensive-minded head coach, because the guy who designs the offense, when you have coordinators, he's going to up and go. And I think the likelihood that they got it right, I think you're more likely to get it wrong than you are get it right. And so I think they may begin now like, oh, okay, that offense sucked. Let's go someplace else. The Eagles did a great job. Like, that's what I kind of expected with the Eagles. They lost their offensive coordinator the 1 year and done. Then they seem to get it right the next year, right? Like, but when your head coach isn't the main play designer, I worry about the relationship with the quarterback. And that's what, and I know I fly right in the face of that with Drake May and Mike Vrabel. Like, that is an issue there. I basically just wanted a long shot, and so I wanted one of the young quarterbacks, and so I went with Drake May. I didn't want another veteran guy.
Yeah.
That's it's as simple as that. There's no major reason. All right, there's our top 10. Who we think can get in the way. We'll see how it changes as the seasons actually get played. When it comes to us, you can always take advantage of our great sponsors. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's best. If you have a business, can avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Don't have liability problems in your parking lot. Get a beautifully striped, perfectly smooth lot with Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. Our friends at Best Me Wellness. You can use the promo code podcast25 to save 25% on your entire order. 5 area locations at Best Me Wellness. Use the promo code podcast25 and by our friends at Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers. 40 years they've been serving Kansas City. If you've got a case, if you've been hurt in an accident, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT, HURT, to 22222. Or call 816-400-HURT. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us.